Depending on your point of view, lemmings either are little fuzzy rodents living in the Arctic, or these other rodents with funky green hair and blue robes. One thing is sure though, they are pretty reckless and have the reputation of being suicidal prone. This reputation came from a Disney documentary movie called White Wilderness, where the filmmakers stage a lemming mass suicide by throwing them off cliffs. This will define lemming behavior for decades to come, even though it's inaccurate. Lemmings is an action puzzle game that uses this misconception, but for its credit, you win by saving the lemmings from their imminent doom by assigning them skills that'll help them navigate their surroundings. You'll have to build bridges, dig tunnels, set up barriers, or even blow lemmings up to get them to safety. The game's got 120 levels divided in 4 difficulty settings that'll make you devise new ways to save the rodents. Not to mention, it's also pretty cute. The box art alone is enough to keep you occupied for a while. Lemmings was one of the 90s best received games and was ported on countless systems to ensure no one was left out. The game first came out on the Commodore Amiga, then appeared on all of these other fine systems. Amiga CD32, Amiga CD-TV, IBM PC, Windows 95, Apple IIgs, Macintosh, Atari ST, ZX Spectrum, PC-98, Acorn, Archimedes, Amstrad CPC, Commodore 64, Sam Coupe, NES, SNES, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, TurboGrafx CD, Lynx, Master System, Game Gear, Genesis 3D, OCDI, PlayStation, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PSP, and PlayStation Mobile. Isn't that enough systems for you? With all of this out of the way, let's play some Lemmings, shall we? With Lemmings, one of the challenges is to find a version of the game that works really well and that has every feature that you want in order to play with it. For this purpose, I'm playing with SuperLemmini, which is a Java-based port of the Windows 95 version of Lemmings, which has a lot of enhanced feature and is pretty much configured in order to play like the Amiga version. So here's a briefing screen. We can see the level's name, how many lemmings you have, how many you need to save, the release rate, the time, and finally the rating, which is the difficulty level. This level is rated fun, as in it's among the easiest levels of the game. So yeah, that's your lemmings. They just walk straight in lines until they hit a wall, and then they just turn back in order to keep walking into a line until something else happens. Wherever they're going into an adventure. So this level is called Just Dig, and the skill that you have to assign to your lemmings here in order to win is the Digger, which allows them to dig straight down until they can no longer dig straight down. The first few levels of the fun difficulty is all about teaching you the various skills that you're going to have to use in order to win the game, so therefore that's pretty much your training grounds in order to be ready for the rest of the game. We're going to be introduced the skills one by one at a pretty steady pace in order to make it so that it's not going to be overwhelming. Only floaters can survive this. So lemmings can only fall a certain distance because otherwise, yeah, if the fall is too high, they're just going to splat like that to death. So that's why you have to give them floaters. Floaters is a permanent ability, and that makes it so that every time they fall down a pit, they just open up umbrellas in order to float to safety. They will do that until the rest of the level. For every single pit they'll fall down, no matter how small or how big it is, so once that you assign a floater, you don't really have to worry about it anymore. I had the feeling that this level was indeed tailor-made for blockers, but yeah, look at the number of lemmings, 50 this time. So we're going to see a shitload more rodents in this level. So blockers just allow you to set a lemming up in order to block a path, and that'll make them turn around just like that. So this way you can keep your lemmings off from dangerous areas, because obviously they could not survive the path or the drop leading all the way down to the right of the level. Now, the game wants you to set up blockers in order to go from tiny platform to tiny platform, but hey, this drop is completely doable, so it's no problem at all. With that said, that might take a while in order to get all of our 50 lemmings out of the gate, so that's where the release rate comes in. We're increasing it all the way to 99, which makes it so that lemmings will pour out of the trapdoor as fast as they possibly can. Typically, you will increase the release rate to 99 whenever all danger is gone and whenever your lemmings have a clear path to the exit. There's other times when you'll want to increase the release rate. Also, you cannot lower the release rate below what the release rate started on, so you have to keep that in mind. As for blockers, yeah, unfortunately they're doomed, because whenever they're set as blockers, you can't really do anything about them. They can never walk again, so you're gonna have to blow them up. Unless that you dig underneath them, and that way they'll lose their footing. So if that happens, then that's going to make them walk again. But for the most part, you're gonna have to blow up blockers once you're done with them. Oh, the game is no longer laughing anymore. We have to rescue all of our 10 lemmings here if we want to succeed. But don't worry, it's fun. We're just here in order to learn things, so don't sweat about it. So we have to use miners. What they do is dig a path downwards in a diagonal angle, so you'll want to use this if you also need to go horizontally, unlike the digger. It's also good for making tunnels that'll ensure that whenever your lemmings will walk down in them, they're not going to fall off from too great a height and they're going to die. The other ability is Climber. It's another permanent skill. Whenever they have that skill, they're just going to climb up any straight wall until they reach the top or until they hit some bump into the wall. With that said, you're not going to be able to climb up rocks or something that have weird angles on them. It has to be a perfect 90-degree angle in order to be able to go up. So you need Basher this time, and look at this marvelous river all the way down. For some unknown reason, the PC version mostly did away with a lot of the different parts of levels like that. For instance, there was no water in the PC version. That's kind of a weird tidbit that I just felt like was needed to be told. And for the Bashers, they just dig a path all the way to the right, and yeah, they're kind of badass. They just destroy a wall using nothing but their bare hands. I mean, make fun of lemmings as much as you can for being mindless, but holy shit, they're buff. Don't fuck with lemmings, because they're going to fuck you up. So for the end of the levels, you have several options here. Here's the less practical of them, which is to dig at every little bit of fence here until you reach the end. That's gonna require you something like 7 bashers, but the easiest way to do it is just to bash at the base of the wireframe structures, because then you're going to bash... okay, I guess you're going to bash through it all the way through unless that you kinda get unlucky, but yeah. You have 50 bashers, so yeah, just experiment to your heart's content in order to see how you use your bashers and what happens if you use bashers on angled surfaces. Yep, it's all yours. The world is your oyster. And yeah, for some reason, SuperLemmini introduces a score element. I have no clue what it's doing here. I think the only version of the game that had score was the SNES version. It didn't really play a point here neither. But in the meantime, it's a task for blockers and bombers. Yeah, not everything is all rainbows and sunshine in Lemming Land. Sometimes lemmings have to kill themselves for the greater good in order to allow the others to come to the end of the level. Whenever you assign a bomber, they have a 5-second countdown, and whenever the countdown is over, they're going to blow up. So this is a skill that definitely requires a certain bit of skill or timing in order to use, because you'll want the lemming to detonate at a certain place in order for the bomber to do what you want it to do, so this is a skill that requires quite a bunch of practice. If you want a bunch of practice, you can just try to blow up the pillar or the way to the exit without using the blocker like I did, but I wanted to show it in order to show the easy way out of this level. And now for the final skill that we have to learn in order to master the basics of the game. Builders will help you here. Honestly, I'm not too sure that there's any skills in the game that you'll use more than the builders, so you better get handy with using it. So once you use it, lemmings will build a staircase all the way up in a certain angle like that. It's definitely more of an horizontal angle than upward angle. And the staircase that they built is made out of exactly 12 bricks, after which they just shrug and they just walk off. And now, time for advanced tactics. In order to ensure that none of my lemmings are gonna fall in the hole below, I'm going to stall them for time by assigning them bogus builders so that they're gonna be occupied enough so that they're not gonna walk down the pit instead. This is a strategy that you're going to have to use in several of the levels in the game. So we might as well get it out of the way right now, but just in case that you don't want to go through this trouble, I'm gonna show you the other way that you can save everyone in this level. You can also just let your lemmings fall in the hole and then use your builders in order to make a bridge all the way back up in a corkscrew fashion in order to eventually get to the top. This is indeed something else that you can do in order to gain height and you're into an enclosed area. You just gotta keep close tabs on your builders or the people that you're clicking on to ensure that your staircase is gonna go in the right direction. A lot of modern source ports use more modern ways in order to handle this. For instance, in this part of the game you can assign skills on lemmings that are going in a specific direction, which will make a lot of levels easier than they should be. And honestly, I think this is way more of a blessing because without that functionality, a bunch of levels in the game are borderline impossible. Oh, welcome to the first proper level of the game. It's not as complicated as it looks. Yeah, we have a lot of people, they're gonna come out fast, and we have to rescue a lot. Yeah, that might look intimidating until you notice, okay, I have 20 blockers, so yeah, here we go, the level is over. We just have to speed up the release rate and, yeah, fast forward, and here we go. The first proper level of the game has come and gone. It's a pretty easy one, but hey, we all gotta start somewhere. Don't worry, the game is gonna get a whole lot more harder than that. It's not really gonna happen on the fun difficulty, however. For the most part, it remains pretty tame. It just has enough death traps or whatever in order to keep you on your toes. For instance, there's this one level that may look a little bit more intimidating because that's one of those levels that have a 99 lemming release rate, which means that your lemmings are gonna pour out of the gate like crazy. So you don't want your lemmings to touch this really weird rotating generator contraption with the slicing handles of doom that are electrified. So yeah, just put a blocker here in order to ensure that nobody gets hurt. And here we go, the level is over. But I'm kind of wondering one thing. Do you need the blocker in order to succeed at this level? Because you need to rescue like 90 lemmings out of 99. So assuming that I just don't put in any blockers, will I still finish the level? Let's check it out. Okay, so I lost 7 of them, so all in all, it's really simple. You didn't even need to use a blocker in order to prevail. Also, in the PC version, levels will only have a maximum of 80 lemmings per level instead of 100. So instead you needed to save 72, and guess what? You still win without any blockers, so that level is definitely more intimidating on the looks than it is to the bite. Yeah, I'm not sure that's how the saying went, but hey, I'm gonna go with it anyway. So yeah, smile if you love lemmings. Well, I really do, which is mainly why I'm going through all of this LP. Also, this level is pretty great because it's got a bunch of different ways that you can use in order to save all of your lemmings. That's probably the easiest one of the bunch. You just put a blocker in order to steer your lemmings in the right direction, and everybody becomes floaters so that they can not die upon doing this really long fall. There's a way that you could use in order to beat this level without using any floaters, but yeah, we're just going to do an alternate method where we're not going to use any blockers. Okay, or I guess I'm gonna use blockers because a couple of the lemmings just ended up eluding my grasp, but hey, they're only going to be... This one blocker is only going to be used for one lemming in particular. And now for the method that doesn't involve any blocking. Or at least I hope not, because yeah, I'm not even sure why I saved this lemming, because yeah, it just drowned. Lemmings do not know how to swim in this game, although they do know how to swim in real life. I'm guessing that their green hair or their blue robes just weighed them down too much. Alright, we're just going to skip forward that, and let's hope that all of our lemmings are gonna go in the right direction. Okay, I guess half of them went, and I still needed to use a blocker anyway. So that kind of was of a messy approach. Yeah, the first method that we did was the best one of the bunch because earlier we saved 19 lemmings and now we only saved 16, but you only need to save 10 in order to win this level, so all in all we prevailed. And that'll be it for this one update. We're going to do these videos in chunks of either 10 levels or 5 levels whenever they're going to get a little bit more complicated. Whenever we'll reach the other difficulty levels, such as Tricky, Taxing, and Mayhem, things are gonna become a whole lot more hairy, but right here, there's nothing too tough. So, see you for the next update!